Okay, it's just come up to 3 minutes past, so we shall make a start. So thank you to everybody that has joined so far. First of all, I have an apology to make from Victor. Victor was due to host this evening's webinar. Unfortunately, he has had to rush to hospital with his wife in a very much a last-minute emergency. So he may be joining us shortly. However, in the meantime, he has asked me to take the stage and to kick us off. But yes, for those that are expecting to see Victor, everything is okay as far as I'm aware, but he's just unable to make it at this very moment. So hopefully everything's okay with him and his wife. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining. My name is Jason. Great to be hosting another webinar for Victor and Viv Europe. Last webinar I think we did was a month or so back. Which was a big success. It's a real pleasure to be working alongside so many of Victor's clients. We've done a few webinars now on the Golden Visa with Victor. And in line with the recent announcements from the Portuguese Prime Minister, it seems to be an increasingly hot topic. And it has added a little bit of urgency to those that are considering going down the Golden Visa route, with the possibility of the scheme being scrapped in the not too distant future. So today, really, the theme of the webinar is now the time to invest in a hotel, or anything for that matter. Is now the time to be considering the Golden Visa, in line of the announcement from the Portuguese Prime Minister, but also, of course, with the exchange rate now, certainly for Americans, being able to buy at a huge discount from just this time last year. There's not far off a 20% discount with the dollar to the euro exchange rate. So the question remains, is now the best time to be considering this? We'll try to answer as many questions as we can, including some of the questions I emailed out earlier today. So how long do we have realistically before the Golden Visa scheme is withdrawn? When is the latest that you can invest to do that application? Should you look at buying a share in a hotel, or should you be looking at buying an apartment in a hotel? And where can I get rental income paid upfront with the option of a buyback after 5 years? So these are some of the most common questions we're being asked at the moment. I'll also explain in some detail around Portugal's unique tax regime, which is the NHR tax regime, which is something designed for new residents of Portugal, and is one of the reasons why people opt to come through Portugal, is to benefit from that tax regime. So we'll touch on that shortly as well. I'll talk you through the requirements for that tax regime as well, to be able to have a discounted rate of tax on your overseas income. And of course, that will stay in place for the first 10 years. Thereafter, between myself and my colleague Shane, we're going to show you some of the top and most popular Golden Visa qualifying investments currently available in the marketplace. Towards the end of the webinar, we will do a question and answer section as well. You'll see just at the bottom of the screen, you can highlight the Q&A box. If you do have any questions as we go through, please just post them in the Q&A, and then towards the end, we shall make sure we cover off each of them as we go. We've got until the hour, so we've got kind of 55 minutes or so to cover as much as we can. Hope you get lots out of the webinar, and yeah, we look forward to, I'm sure, working with some of you in the near future. So if you haven't logged on before, just to introduce myself, my name is Jason Swan. I'm a senior partner for Holborn Assets. Holborn, if you're not familiar, a global wealth management company. We're actually, my day job is as a financial planner, working, of course, very closely with clients moving into Portugal and helping with the management of their assets and, of course, their tax planning needs as well. The company's been around now for nearly 25 years. We have offices all over the world. We have clients in over 100 different countries. And myself am based in Albufeira in the south of Portugal, which comes hand in hand, of course, with a part of the Holborn Assets Group, which is Holborn Passport, which is headed up by my colleague Shane Peacock, who will be introducing you to very shortly. And the Holborn Passport service is designed around citizenship and residency by investment. Portugal is not the only program that we run. That is, of course, the focus for today's webinars, but the service allows our clients to find a new home and travel freely in different parts of the world by investment. So between myself and Shane, and of course our team here at Holborn, we look for the market-leading investments that meet the criteria of the local visa laws, quite simply. Holborn offer a A to Z service, which allows us to not just find the investment property, but also we take care of you right through to kind of 5 or 6 years from now when you have the passports. You have both myself and Shane and our team here at Holborn that will be taking care of the administration and ultimately project managing all the different moving parts within the process, including the legal work, perhaps the developer of the property, perhaps the managing agent of the property, and making sure that it's a very smooth and, well, making what is normally a very stressful process into something that's not too stressful and goes according to plan. So that's myself and Shane. Shane will be coming on shortly. In the meantime, we should get stuck in. So today's topic is going to be looking at the Portugal Golden Visa. As I mentioned, not the only Golden Visa that is on offer, so not the only residency scheme that we do, but something quite close to me. I myself, I'm in Portugal. My clients are all over the world, but I do enjoy talking about Portugal. I moved here about 2 years back, and I moved from Spain previously, where I was at for 5 years. And as you might be able to tell from a little bit left of a Manchester accent, that's where I was back previously in the UK. So first of all, I was going on to some of the main points as to why Portugal. There's a couple of reasons behind Portugal. First of all, Portugal is seen as the gateway to Europe, even for those looking to maybe settle in France or Cyprus or another part of Europe. Portugal allows a very clear path to achieving an EU passport. And when you get an EU passport, that then allows you rights to live and work and travel however you see fit in any of the 27 EU member states. However, in the meantime, for those that are looking to move to Portugal, it comes with a number of benefits. For me, I moved generally for 2 reasons. Just like Portugal, I've been on holiday to Portugal many times, the Algarve. I've been on holiday to the Algarve countless times over in my past, and coming from Spain, of course, the weather is very similar, but it does get over 300 days of sunshine each year, so it's not a bad start. On top of that, it's a nice place to be. The cost of living is very good, especially compared to parts of the States or other parts of Europe, or certainly compared to the likes of London. You can have a very nice life with a very low cost of living overall. For children and for family, it has officially one of the best education systems anywhere in the world. It has one of the very best healthcare systems anywhere in the world as well. And you are a matter of 1 or 2 hours train journey away from any part of Portugal, from where I am anyway, in the Algarve, but it's very much interconnected. Whether you wanted to settle in Porto or Lisbon or down in the Algarve, very easy to get about. And of course, Spain is just over the border as well. On top of that, of course, is the favourable tax treatment. So for clients that have an income from abroad, Portugal is particularly attractive because they offer a very unique tax regime called the non-habitual residency scheme. And it was launched back in 2009, and the idea behind it is that it was there to attract the world's leading talent and, of course, wealthy individuals to, of course, boost the economy, very similar to, of course, the Golden Visa itself. And what it allows, if you pass the criteria, you can apply for a very low rate of tax on your income. And the main headlines are, first of all, if you are working, if you're employed or self-employed and you fall into a particular skill category, you can apply for a flat rate of just 20% income tax, which is very low, certainly compared to the other parts of Europe. Furthermore, if you're now in retirement or coming into retirement, a real big plus is that pension income, although it used to be 0% up until last year, I think, it's now capped at just 10%, which is good. It's a little bit different for Americans, which we'll talk in more individual cases, because there are some countries where, regardless of where you live, you will still be deemed to be paying tax in your home country rather than the one that you moved to. But for the majority of us, you can have a very low rate of tax of 10%. And there is a complete tax exemption on certain incomes such as dividends and rental income as well. So if you are drawing dividends by way of an investment portfolio, or from a company, or a rental income perhaps from your home or a portfolio of properties, as long as that income is coming from a country that has a tax treaty with Portugal, then there is a complete tax exemption for the first 10 years. So some real big pluses. Before we start looking at the weather and where you're going to be spending the weekends, the tax is great if you have an overseas income as well. And lastly, if you are looking to draw long-term income from an investment portfolio, there are investment vehicles that are compliant with Portugal that allow a 60% discount on your income post 10 years, post MHR as well. So altogether, yeah, I'm not going to try and convince anyone to move to Portugal based on tax. Not the most exciting topic to talk about by any means. However, it's good to know, and it is a big plus for those with overseas income. Yeah, other than that, that's part of the reason why I moved into my highlights of Portugal so far. So without further ado, that's the boring bits out of the way as far as tax and the company is concerned. I'm Shane, if I can bring you on and ask you now to get stuck into the questions around, is now the time to be buying with the Golden Visa in Portugal?
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it. I think important notes to take into account are sort of where we are and how we got here. So looking at what the Golden Visa actually is and where it's been and where we're going on that. So if we break it down into current situations, we have a program that was started in 2012. Since then, we have seen many growths and a couple of changes. Those changes include initially changing it from a 6-year program to a 5-year program. And then at the beginning of this year, they changed what you could actually buy. So they've actually taken away now residential properties in your main cities, which we'll go into a little bit later. And they're offering other opportunities that way. All in all, making it probably one of the best programs that there is available currently. If you're looking for an EU passport, yes, there's more direct ways to go into getting it, but from a cost point of view and from an investment point of view, this is probably your best offer worldwide. Right. So currently we've had over 10,000 applications approved. People have actually started getting their passports, which is obviously very good news for us. Since 2018, in fact, that's the first person got his passport. There has been a couple of changes. All right. So change is normal within our industry. Generally, we're given about a 6-month turnaround period. And at the beginning of this month, the wonderful Prime Minister of Portugal stated in a quick walk-by interview that the Golden Visa had achieved its goals and that it was time to reevaluate and possibly close it down. A lot of panic happened within the markets, and after speaking with all the lawyers, all the politicians and everybody there, it's same as what we're used to. So what we're expecting now is 2023, the budget has been formulated, so we're not expecting any drastic changes straight away. However, we are expecting possible notifications that may be in January or June of next year, where they generally give us about a 6-month change period. So my advice to clients is sooner rather than later, take advantage of the current offerings. And if you were thinking about it and sitting on the fence, better idea to move forward just in case it actually does disappear. It's not something new within the industry. We've seen it happen a lot. The UK scrapped their program at the beginning of the year. We've seen places like Montenegro is going to be scrapping it at the end of this year. So it's just they're there for a purpose, and that purpose changes and will be reevaluated. Right. So enough of that. Who qualifies?
Just to jump in there, Shane. I was just going to ask Shane, could you just clarify maybe the what we're talking about time frame? One of the questions was, how long realistically do we have to do the Golden Visa?
Realistically, I think we've got about a 12-month period. Like I said, 2023, we're fine with. 2024, we may have a different situation. So when I say we've got 12 months, bear in mind, we've still got a whole process to go through. And part of that is you would need to at least have your application submitted to be able to qualify for the current regime. So it does take anything from 4 to 6 months to get this process going, depending on how quickly we can move. So it's important, as I say, we've got to submit before June of next year, just to make sure and be safe that everything is moving forward in the right direction.
And how much time is needed before June next year to be able to do the application by then?
Yeah, we're probably looking at about 4 to 6 months. So we need about 4 to 6 months to get your application in. It can take longer depending on banks, because a lot of the banks have their compliance structures in place. We are able to move forward a little bit quicker because of our partners that we have. So I would give yourself at least 6 months. So if you're going to start, rather start now, so that by June next year you've already submitted. And then yeah, don't take that stress away. Does that answer your question, Joe?
And if it's me that's frozen or you, Shane?
I don't know. All right.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Gotta love technical issues. All right. So anyway, let's get back onto who actually qualifies. So anyone who's a non-EU.
It's me.
Is it you or me?
I think it might be me. Sorry, Shane. After you. Thank you for answering that question.
No worries. So all non-EU citizens that do not hold criminal records can actually apply for the Golden Visa. You can include in one application 3 generations. Those 3 generations will include your spouse, whether married or unmarried, as long as we can prove that you have lived together for at least 1 year. It'll include your children. Now, children, there is no age limit as to how old they need to be, or how old the eldest would be. The only requirement there is that they are financially dependent on you, and by proving dependency, we have to have them enrolled in full-time study for the next 5 years. Right? Parents, if you're going to include your parents, remembering that they do need to be financially dependent on you. However, if they are above the age of 65, we don't need to prove dependency. So that will be both from husband and wife, can be included in the application. Right? There are other alternatives and other shifts, but that will be more on an individual basis that we would discuss that with. Now, as I said to you before, a lot of things have changed. And one of the things that changed at the beginning of this year was that you cannot buy residential property within your main city centers anymore. These include Porto, Lisbon, Algarve, Cascais, and a number of other seaside resorts. However, what they have said is you now can buy commercial properties within these same regions, bearing in mind that the pricing will stay the same. So it's not an increase and it's not a complete wipeout. The prices that we're looking at is 500,000 for a new build property, 350,000 for a renovated property. Now, a renovated property has to be 30 years or older and has to be renovated, as in the words. You can, however, decrease these prices, and by decreasing them, you would move these properties into what they call a low density area. Not in the middle of nowhere. A lot of our properties within the Algarve actually qualify for this option, and those options we can reduce by 20%. Therefore, the magic number of 280,000 now applies, as well as 400,000 for a new build property. There are alternatives to property. These include investment funds starting at 500,000. These include scientific research and employment. And if you want, you can do a special transfer. Basically, it is an investment into a bank. That's coming in at 1.5. End of last year, there was a lot of, in my mind, there was a lot of advantages to doing a lot of these alternative options. With all the changes in the current markets and everything, we're finding that our clients are way more preferring to invest into property. What we've seen over the last 10 or so years is the fact of moving from large scale properties to more rental properties. So what we've seen is less purchasing from the heart, more purchasing from the head. So less emotional purchases. And the reason for that is obviously from an investment point of view, what will work better for you and what will generate some income. Right? The process itself is fairly straightforward. So the Golden Visa process, straightforward. And the reason why it's straightforward is, as Jason said, we're an A to Z service. We do everything on your behalf. What would happen is once you've selected an investment, we'll then start the investment by putting everything into black and white. Sign all the agreements and basically paying your legal costs as well as your tax numbers. That then leads us into number 2, which is opening up your tax numbers. It's called a NIF number. Roughly takes about 48 hours to get your tax numbers, and this will be for anyone above the age of 18. The bank account has to be a domiciled bank account within Portugal to purchase your property. And this bank account will be opened up remotely, right? The account will be a Golden Visa account and therefore validated. Once we have that account open, you would transfer your funds into the account and we can now purchase your property. Once the property has been purchased, we'll then move on to application stage. And this is where we require birth certificates for kids, marriage certificates for spouses, and police clearances for anyone above the age of 18. This is the point that we need to now get to be able to avoid any kind of surprises or any kind of disappointments. At this point, we are able now to submit the full application to the SCF, which is the immigration division within Portugal, and we can now move on and start the final proceedings. Part of that proceeding is that we need the whole family to go across to Portugal to do their biometrics. We'll have a date and we'll have a time. The lawyers will be with you the entire time. And during that period, you'll do your fingerprints, you'll do your retinal scans, and you'll do general verification of who you are. That now leads to final approval. And upon final approval, we'll pay for the card fees and you'll be issued with your cards. Those cards are in fact your start date of the 5 years. In addition, those cards will allow you visa-free travel to all Schengen countries, as well as allow you to live, work, and study within Portugal, giving you the same rights as any Portuguese citizen. You just cannot vote, so no running for president just yet. Use the passport, or yeah, that's basically it. Right, so you'll have all the other same rights from medical to education moving forward. If anyone has any questions about that, as Jason said, please leave it in the Q&A section and we'll get to that. Most of our clients now want to obviously move from residency into citizenship. That's why most clients are doing this. And to be able to achieve this, you will need to renew your Golden Visa every 2 years. So in year 2, year 4, you'll need to renew your Golden Visa. Once we've done that, pretty much the same process as the initial process. But once we've done that, we now have the right to apply for permanent residency and citizenship. Only requirements are in that you need to hold your residency for 5 years. You need to prove that you have been there the minimum stay of 14 days every 2 years. And you need to pass a basic language test. There shouldn't be a point where everyone panics. Language test is fairly simple. It is the most basic format within the EU offering. It's an A2 level. Most of our clients are taking roughly about 6 months to be able to pass. And if we look at the offering, you can do it multiple times. So you can run it any time during the 5 years and pass it rather earlier than later. Right? However, once you've now passed that, you've now got your citizenship. You now have the 5th best passport in the world, giving you opportunity to travel to 187 countries visa-free, as well as, obviously, the main purpose, living, working, and studying within the EU. So all 27 member states become an option there. So just to recap quickly, the entire process, we're looking at a 5-year process. Your initial 1 to 10 months, you're looking at the application process. In year 2, year 4, we will renew. In year 5, we will apply for your citizenship, and all going to well, we'll get your citizenship within year 6. So quite straightforward. We've done this a lot. Currently, we're looking at about just over 10% of all Golden Visa applications flow through our office. So we kind of know what we're doing on this basis. Now onto the exciting part.
One question for you there, Shane, before you jump on. So one question that often comes up is about whether or not you can travel in other parts of Europe during the 5 years with the Golden Visa.
So the answer
Choose
is
code.
fairly simple. It's a yes. You have a Schengen visa-free travel. What that means is all Schengen listed countries you have access to, and you can actually spend 90 days in a 180-day period there. So it's effectively 3 months in, 3 months out, 3 months in. So you can effectively spend 6 months within the Schengen zone every year. Okay. So no more standing waiting around for a Schengen visa. Now, from a property point of view, we have multiple properties spanning the whole of Portugal. What I'm going to focus on today is a little bit more of your most popular areas, which include the Algarve. Algarve, obviously, because it's more of a Mediterranean feel. The oceans are a little bit warmer, the climate's a little bit hotter, and it's generally where most of your tourism is happening. Lisbon is another area that we will look at, and the reason for that is obviously being a main city. It has a lot of attraction for tourism, but it also has where most of the population wants to settle. Right? So the first property we're going to is a property called the Riverside in Faro. Faro is where the main airport is in the Algarve. This property is a brand new build property. It's going to be a 4-star hotel based in Riverside. It will be managed by the group called Indigo, which is by IHG, and they will look after and run the day-to-day operations. As an investor, they are looking at 140 investors to invest into this project. Currently, we have around about 90 investors already in this project. We basically sell out these in approximately 3 months. So again, not something that sticks around. If it is an opportunity for you, rather take advantage now. What they're offering is co-ownership. What that means is your name will be listed together with all the developers on one title deed. So you'll have ownership of the entire development. It is with a developer that has a track record of over 30 years. They are a Canadian-based company with offices within US, Canada, as well as Portugal. In fact, they are the largest hotel developers within Portugal. So the offering now is 123 rooms, on-site restaurants, gyms, spas, swimming pools. So all the luxuries. Generally, it's a 3% return. The only difference with this is instead of us paying you a return as far as an income goes, the developer will instead pay certain of your costs for you. These include your IMT costs, IMT transfers, so it's your transfer fees, as well as your VAT. Equates to just over 35,000 euros. So that's where your 3% comes. So it's important to realize that. Main reason is obviously we're not attracting tax that way. It does come with a buyback guarantee, or what we call a forward contract. This basically stipulates that at the end of the process, after 6 years or whenever you've obtained your citizenship, the developer will buy back the property at the same price you bought it for. So that 280,000 that you originally purchased for, they will buy back that. This is probably your cleanest, most straightforward offering that we have within the Golden Visa offerings. It's a money in, money out option. One of the other benefits, however, is you are able to see Portugal. It does give you 7 days free accommodation within any of their hotels, and these hotels range from Marriott to Sheraton to Hilton hotels, and obviously Indigo, and they scope everything from Porto all the way down the coast to the Algarve. Right. The next offering is quite a new project. New project in the fact that we've just taken it on. Yes.
Would you like me to save your breath and play my my special video on this one?
I think it's time to see some acting skills from Jason. So yes, fire away.
Hey, I'll give you a break. Let's have a look at my acting skills. This is my personal favorite. This is about 20 minutes from where I live. So I thought I'd take the time to expand my skill set and do a bit of a video on this one. Let me know if you can't hear the sound. It should be okay. Just 1 second. Okay. €500,000. That is the minimum price tag for those looking to buy a new build property here in Portugal that wish to qualify for the Golden Visa. Those that are fortunate enough to be able to afford that price will immediately benefit from the right to live, work and retire anywhere in Portugal. Not only that, after 5 years, they'll have the option to apply for the European passport, which allows them to do all of the above in any of the European states. But what happens if you don't want to spend 500,000 euros? Well, you have two options. Option one is you can buy a property that isn't brand new. And if you can find one that you like that's over 30 years old, you can bring that 500,000 down to just 350,000. Option two is where you can buy a property in what is deemed to be a low density area. Unfortunately, however, that rules out most of the Algarve, Porto, Lisbon. So the question is, do you really want to buy an old property in the middle of nowhere with no tourism? Well, today we're going to have a look at how you can keep that 280,000 euro price tag, but have all of the above and more. What if I said there was a purchase you could make here in the Algarve? It's just walking distance from the beach with 5 years rental income guaranteed for 285,000 euros. What if I said that rental income was paid up front as part of the purchase? If that doesn't sell it for you, there is the developer that will offer to buy the property back from you once you have your passport in 5 years, the same price as what you purchased it for. Sound too good to be true? Well, walk with me and see why Holborn Assets continues to be the market leader for Golden Visa investments here in Portugal. Allow me to introduce you to Alvor, situated here between Portimao and Lagos in the Algarve. Alvor is one of my personal favourites, and later this month Holborn Assets will be releasing a new development here in Alvor, just 5 minutes walking distance from this beach right behind me. The thing with Alvor is that it is still situated in what is deemed to be a low density area, meaning that we can meet that lowest price entry point of 280,000. The development that will be offered later this month, the starting price will be 285,000, with all of what we just mentioned a moment ago. You'll also be able to stay in the property, rent the property and sell it back at the price you paid for as soon as your passports have been granted. Now, some of you might be aware that the rules changed around the Golden Visas in January 2022, where you can no longer purchase residential properties. That's not to say that you can't enjoy your holidays still with a commercial or a touristic investment. That's all I can tell you for now. The official launch will be later on this month. In the meantime, you can download more information on this page, or you can register for one of our webinars, and we look forward to speaking with you soon. Make your investments do more with Holborn Assets. There we go.
Thanks, Jason. The Emmys are calling. the Emmys and the Globes and everybody are calling soon. Good acting. So that would be our second option that we are able to offer. The final solution, and this is where we kind of look at what the client is looking for. If you as a client are looking for lowest entry point, those two would probably be your best options. However, if you're looking at more of a return basis, this property will astound you. The property itself is called Royal Orbidas. It's in an area called Orbidas, which is about 45 minutes outside Portugal, well, outside Lisbon. It's about a 45-minute drive, and what it offers you is a 5-star golf and spa resort. It is a PGA golf course, so the European Open was played there this year. It does have a 5-star hotel offering indoor pools, saunas, outdoor pools, gyms, restaurants, bar facilities, as well as individual apartments, which is what you would own. The golf course was designed by Sevi Ballesteros, and the hotel designed by Philippe Stark. Now, the property itself is a beachfront resort. So the golf course runs along the beach. Behind it is a forest area with a lagoon. And then just in the distance is the city. So you're far enough to be secluded, but close enough to have nightlife if that's what you're looking for. Now, this specific property is asking for a single bedroom, will set you back 500,000 euro. Where I said the investment part comes in is we are offering 7% per year guaranteed for 5 years. So those 5 years will be all paid up front, which you can actually utilize as part of your investment. So instead of spending 500,000 euro, you'll be looking at about 368,000 euro. The benefit for you there is this property also has what they call a buyback guarantee, or that forward contract, as I mentioned before. The forward contract is an optional contract, meaning that you would sign it from day one. However, in year 4, you can decide to keep it or discard the buyback agreement. Meaning that if you were to keep the buyback agreement for a family of 4 or 5, you're looking at a profit. So basically what it'll mean is at the end of the day, your 500,000 will come back to you, and you would have made a profit on that sale there. It does give you option to utilize the project 6 weeks per year, and it's going very, very quick. As you can imagine, clients are looking for something like this because at the end of the day, it's not costing you anything. It is movement of money. However, at the end of the day, you're still walking away with profit. So this is probably one of our most popular options yet. Right. Alternatively, if I just go the one before, we have another property which is also slightly different to what is out there on offer. This is a project within Lisbon area, so it is 5-minute drive from Lisbon airport, and what it's offering is a Wyndham residence property. Right, so there are individual homes that you have multiple different options for. On the property itself will be inclusive of pools, saunas, even racquetball courts, and obviously all the other amenities. Each unit has got capability of its own pool, and in many cases they already come with a pool already added. All of this that you can see above is about 70% complete already. So we're coming very close to completion date, which is around about early 2024. Underneath all this development is actually underground parking together with underground storage. So it offers many different routines. But as an investor, what does it give you? Actually give you 3 different options. You can either have a guaranteed rental yield, depending on the size of your property. It will range anything from 3 to 6%, guaranteed every single year, where you'll be able to utilize this property yourself 7 days per year. Something else that we could offer is a variable yield. So what this means is you can use it as many times during the year as you'd like. While you're not using the property, we can put it onto the investment option. And we're looking there at roughly about 7 to 10%, of which you'll get 50%. So there is a return there. Alternatively, and this is where it's very different to what else has been offered out there, you can have a no yield and actually live in this property. Although it's registered and licensed as a touristic property, it is capable that you are able to live within the property. So there are many different options there. It is quite a large property, starting from 512,000 for a 3-bedroom villa, going all the way up to a 4-bedroom villa with pool. So again, if this is something that interests you, let us know. We can run through it in more detail and from an individual basis. Jace, I think that's it as far as the property goes. Any questions from your side?
Yep, just a couple of questions. Shane, nothing for me personally, but there's been a couple of questions that were sent earlier on today that have been asked for us to cover. Give me 1 second. One I remember. One was, oh yeah, quite simply, Shane. What do we buy at 280? Do we buy a hotel share or do we buy an apartment? What would you do?
So, I mean, currently, obviously, it depends on you as an individual. There is no correct answer for that. And the reason why is certain of our clients are looking at the no mess fuss option. And in that case, the Riverside Ferry is amazing. It's a 280,000 investment. We make sure that we reduce all costs as much as possible. And you are able to walk away guaranteed with your 280,000 in your back pocket with your passport. Alternatively, the tulip or the yellow tulip option, the one with your amazing acting, that then gives you the opportunity to own a unit which consists of 2 individual apartments or studio apartments. That is a full title deed listed in your name. Has additional benefits. From year 6, you now start to receive 50% of the entire rental pool. And if we look at last summer, you're probably looking at about 4 to 5% return on an annualized basis. So that one gives you very good returns. It's more of a long-term investment because you may decide to keep that property and obviously sell it in your own right on the market. So it just depends on each client, but that's why we have so many offerings.
But you agree with me, yellow tulip.
I like the area, and I'm a Formula 1 MotoGP fan, so Portimao is not too far away from there.
Very good. I've heard that Golden Visa applications are taking up to 2 years to go through. Is that realistically what to expect?
So you're right. They were going up to that, and majority of the blame on that was COVID. We weren't able to travel. You weren't able to go across to Portugal and do your biometrics. Unfortunately, Portugal never came to the party and said we can do biometrics anywhere in the world, so they remained as is. And still to this day, you have to come to Portugal to do your biometrics. But now that people are able to freely move around the world, that 2-year period has come down quite drastically. I will tell people that you're looking at probably about a 12-month period. If I can do it quicker, and the odds are we can do it a lot quicker than that, then it's beneficial for everybody. But to meet everyone's expectations, currently I'd say about 12 months. When I first started in the industry, we were looking at 6 months. It was a very quick turnaround process. But unfortunately, that bad word COVID has put a little bit of a problem in place. But the Portuguese government have put their full backing behind it. The SEF now has no more issues, and they are putting their full power behind it. So we are seeing a big turnaround and a massive swing in timelines.
Okay, thank you. Can you clarify the difference between a guaranteed, a mandatory, and an optional buyback?
Okay. So the guaranteed part is the promise to purchase. So that all of the buybacks or forward contracts will stipulate that. The difference between an optional and a mandatory, however, the mandatory buyback stipulates that you still get your money back. The only difference is you can only sell it back to the developer at that initially agreed price. The optional buyback is slightly different. For the first 4 years, it's the same. It's a mandatory buyback. However, in year 4, you can now decide, and it's written within the agreement, that you can now stipulate, do you want to cancel that buyback and keep the property going forward, be able to sell it in your own right or even keep it? Or do you want to keep the buyback in place, which will then mean it's a mandatory buyback? As long as that buyback is in place, it means mandatory.
Okay, super. Can you explain exactly what areas are deemed as low density? I was under the impression that the Algarve was not low density.
So majority of the Algarve, because what they do is they look at the Algarve as an area. So if you had to take the entire zone or province, you would look at that. If you pull out everything in that occurrence, then obviously you have the less people per square kilometer. Also within the areas that we're talking about now, they are not residentially properties. So you don't have a lot of people living there. Although there are lots of holidaymakers there, you don't have physical people living there. So these qualify under those terms because of the low density, and especially with the region.
Okay. There's just a few questions from Mohammed. Thank you, Mohammed. So the first question is showing, do you have independent units, 1 or 2 bedrooms? So we could use as, you could use it for the Golden Visa and for a rental income. So I think just to clarify there, Mohammed, yeah, you can buy a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom unit, depending on the development that you buy. For example, the yellow tulip, for example, you can buy either 2 studios or you can buy one unit, 1 big bedroom. And some of the other developments shown, the likes of Lisbon, Is there 1 and 2 beds available at the Royal Obidos?
Yeah, so there are 1 beds available. We have an option with Royal Obidos where you can actually buy 2 studio apartments if you'd like. It's a much greater return. You're looking at about a 200,000 euro return on that project. But it is a starting capital of around about 750,000 euro. So generally what we find is the higher the investment, the greater the return. But yeah, in all our developments, we have many different options, from a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom, and those options will qualify you under the Golden Visa, and each of those will have a return structure.
Perfect. And just following on from that, I think it's just worth clarifying, Shane, about the change in rules this year about the option to buy a residential to a commercial property. Mohamed's just asking, can he buy their future house under the Golden Visa?
So what a lot of our clients do, and I've seen it plenty of times, is what they're doing is they're coming in and they say, if the case is that they want to live within the country, what they would generally do is come in at the lowest point of entry investment. They would then invest the 280,000, secure their Golden Visa, leave it almost as a silo, and that then gives you opportunity to buy any property anywhere for any price throughout Portugal. So that gives you the opportunity to buy your future home. But as far as the Golden Visa goes, unfortunately, we need to first secure that Golden Visa with a property that will qualify.
Super. The next one I can probably take, Shane. So what are the pros and cons of the hotel investment route versus investing in an investment fund? I suppose it's again a mixed opinion on that. I think the majority, I think 80%, Shane, of applications now are for property.
Yeah, it's even gone up to about 90, 95 at the moment.
Okay, so really a couple of reasons. First of all, the investment fund is now minimum of 500,000 compared to 280 property. It requires less capital. And from an investment perspective, I think since a young age, we're taught to buy property. Most people are comfortable buying bricks and mortar. You can touch and you can feel what you're buying. An investment fund, at the end of the day, is a piece of paper, and you need to have a bit of understanding and knowledge around, exactly what it is you're invested into. So sometimes it's personal preference. The advantage of a property is, you have a fixed return. You know exactly what you get in. With an investment fund, it could make significantly more money, but likewise, it can also go up and down in value during the time that you hold it for. So you've got to be comfortable with the investment risks as well. But it's not a bad option. But for those 2 reasons, it might impact the decision. Other than that, I think there's just one more, Shane. If anyone wants to throw in any questions, please feel free. I think there was just one more that came in earlier on today, Shane. Bear with me. Is the tax different on a property that offers a rental income compared to a discounted rate?
So yeah, I think let me start on what the actual tax is. So what the ruling within Portugal is for any non-domiciled tax resident, so anyone that has a tax number that is non-domiciled within Portugal, is a flat rate of 28% on all income earned within Portugal. So not on your worldwide income, only within Portugal. So the difference between the 2 of them is if you were to get a property income like with Royal Obidos, generally speaking, you're going to have to pay a 28% tax on that amount. The other structure, the way we structure it by them paying certain costs on your behalf, avoids income tax completely. So there is no taxes on that. It will just be a case of they will substitute and purchase certain or pay for certain costs on your behalf, such as VAT, IMT tax, notary costs, stamp duties, whatever the offering is at that time.
Perfect. And Nicholas has just asked, Shane, I think we've just covered this one actually, Nicholas, but it's taking more than a year to process the application right now. And we're just saying there, Nicholas, that we're kind of setting expectations at about a year. Earlier on in this year, there was a real big backlog of applications, and that it was taking a lot longer than a year, but now we're kind of back up to speed. Staff are now up to date. It is still a busy part of the world, Seth, but at the moment, 12 months from the point of application is a good time frame to work towards. Well, thanks, Nicholas. Another question from Mohammed Shane. Can we buy on installments to qualify under the Golden Visa, or do we have to pay all in one go?
So unfortunately, it is all in one go. So these specific properties cannot be encumbered. So as long as you are putting the minimum amount, so the 280,000 would need to be cash, these properties can't be encumbered. So we can't take a mortgage or a bond against these properties. However, from an external point of view, if you do have properties outside Portugal that you are able to remortgage, you can provide the funds there. But the actual property itself cannot be utilized to provide source of funds.
I think we can do sometimes, Mohammed, kind of staged payments in a short period of time. For example, I spoke to a client this morning, and there was a limit of 250,000 during a one tax year. I think perhaps it was maybe a country limit in India at the moment. There's only 250,000 that could leave. So we've agreed where you can do the 250 this year and then complete on the property in April with the second payment. So something like that, we'll always try to work around the timeline so it can work well. But in the main, the property needs to be purchased in cash and at the outset to complete the purchase. Okay, just one last question, Shane. Can my sister be included on the Golden Visa application if she lives with me?
Unfortunately, unless you are a legal unless she's a legal dependent because of health reasons, unfortunately not. She would be considered as a separate family member and not within the immediate family.
Okay, thank you, Shane. You said the process takes 1 year to complete, so possible that the payment can be divided into the whole year. So the process, Mohammed, is basically 1 year from the point of the application, the Golden Visa. And to submit the application, you need to have purchased the property. So you would have up until the time that you purchase the property to fund the purchase, but only after it's been fully paid for would you then submit. Can we submit the application for you? And it's then that part that takes 12 months. So we couldn't submit the application until the property had been fully paid for. Would you agree, Shane? Correct,
100%.
Super. Hopefully that answers your question, Mohammed. I've got another good question. He's on a roll. Keep on going, Mohammed. So can wife and children under 18 be included in the same application?
Yes, they can. So we can include 3 generations. So we can include wife, children under 18, and we can also include parents if you'd like. So both sets of parents, your in-laws as well as your own. If they're above the age of 65, we don't need to prove that they are dependent. So the only criteria for the children, if they're under 18 currently, by the time we're now applying for citizenship, they still need to be enrolled in full-time study, and they need to be single with no children.
Very good, Shane. Good answer. That's just what I was going to say. Thank you very much, Mohammed. Shane, thank you, Nikki. Are there any circumstances? We've got a good answer for this one, haven't we, Shane? Are there any circumstances that an application can be or has been rejected?
The answer is yes. It can be rejected. If you look at our rate of success, we have a 100% success record. And the reason why is because your general rejections are due to either criminal circumstances, so there's been a criminal record picked up, or if there was a past Schengen rejection. So if you have had a Schengen rejection that has been rejected, we would need to know about that, and we would apply again. But out of 1,000 applications, we've had a 100% success record. So kind of know what we're doing. And primarily that's because before we start the process, we do a lot of background due diligence on each client to make sure that they are at the right point and that we will have a success.
Super. That's good. That's good, that, isn't it, Shane? I'm quite chuffed with us on that. We have a 100% success rate. That is good going.
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing to keep, but it's something we're very, very proud of.
Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question, Nikki. But yeah, no other questions for the time being, Shane. So we're just coming up to the hour. Mohammed,
we got one more.
Mohammed, thank you. Got another question. So Mohammed, we need to keep the minimum required funds for the Golden Visa for how long? It's not really that I can jump in on that one, Shane. So Mohammed, it's not the funds, not the money that you need to keep in the bank. It's the property. You need to keep that property, and at the years 2 and year 4, where you renew the visa, you need to be the owner of that property. So after 5 years of ownership, that's when we can submit the application for your permanent residency and or your passport. Okay. So on that note, yeah, we'll be on for another minute or so. If any last minute questions, please throw them in. In the meantime, I'd say thank you to Victor. Victor, unfortunately, again, wasn't able to make it from Viv Europe this evening. But yeah, hopefully everyone's found the webinar helpful. You have my email address on the screen, and for any information around the developments that we've covered, if you'd like to request the brochures, please do ask. If you'd like a personalized cost breakdown on everything for each development, you know, what does it all come down to, itemized with regard to the Golden Visa fees, the legal fees, the property, and sometimes the rental income that's paid and things like this, please ask. If you'd like a tax guide, please ask. If you need any questions on the tax front at all when moving to Portugal, or how income is taxed in Portugal and things like this, you know, please do just drop me an email anytime. We can always check stock availability. Some of the developments are coming up to the end of their tether, I think now, but at the moment, everything that you've seen has availability. But if you want to check a particular unit availability, the Yellow Tulip at the moment is quite a new launch, so there are still top floor and ground floor apartments available, but generally they're the first ones to go. But ask if you have any questions on any of the developments. Not to repeat the Yellow Tulip, it is my personal favourite, but hey. And if you would like a one-to-one discussion with myself or Shane, and you'd like to just kind of thrash it all out and ask any questions that you have, or talk to us about starting the process on one of the developments, just, yeah, again, drop me an email. I can send you a link to my calendar, and then we can schedule that in at a convenient time. But other than that, just one last question, Shane. Once once you have the Golden Visa after a year, can we withdraw our funds or reinvest into another project? The answer is yes. On that, Mohammed, the idea is behind the first 5 years is that it is there purely as a route to the Golden Visa. So after you have the passport, so a route to your passport. Once you have the passport, or once you have your permanent residency, there is no requirement to keep the property. More often than not, the buyback is executed, the funds are returned back to you. At that point, you are free to do as you wish. In most examples, that's when you then go house shopping for where you want to live, where you're not worried about the area or the price tag or meeting the requirements. You have the cash back in the bank, and then you're free then to choose wherever you like in Europe to then kind of settle down and buy a property long term. If you don't wish to buy a property at that point, yeah, the answer, Mohammed, is you can take the cash back out and you can do however you wish, but the cash will be back with you along with your passports for future use. Okay, Shane, anything else you'd like to add at all?
No, I think you covered everything.
Mohammed, obviously lots of questions. Also, Nikki, you have an email from me this morning. Please just ask if there's anything that we've missed or anything that we've not covered. We have just come up now to the hour, so thank you for everyone joining, and we'll keep you up to date with our new developments, and we'll be on hand for any questions along the way. Thank you, everybody. In fact, just one last question, Shane. In fact, I think, what's the capital gains tax on the buyback? Nice and easy, Parag. There is no capital gains tax on the buyback because you'll be selling it back for the same price as what you bought it for. Only in the event that you were to sell it on the open market for a profit would there be a capital gains tax, but there is no tax on the buyback because it's the same price. Thank you much, guys. Any other questions, please drop us an email. It's nice to present the Viv Europe. Thank you, Shane, for your time. And yeah,
thank you for the invite.
Thanks all.
Take care.
Bye now.